Hello, I know, this is the first one of 2015. I guess that's because I've been kind of waiting for things to actually happen music-wise. And I'm lying. Actually, I just needed to finish this up. January started off with an unusual bang. I mean, we had like 5 albums from powerhouse indie rock bands, like right off the bat. And I had to finish up deciding which ones I wanted to do, had to listen to them until I could understand everything, because some of these bands are kind of complicated musically. Sometimes. Depends on which ones. And sometimes I think that if I really listen to them a few times, I'll get a better view. So, we're going to start off with one of the bands that is the coolest bands ever, because they can't help it. It's like Interpol. When they first put out Turn on the Bright Lights, they could not help but be cool whether they liked it or not. And that's what this band is. Forever cool in the indie world, forever cool in the hipster world. Just, they're always like that. So, by that account, this review will be cool in the way that it's ahead of its time, and that no one has seen it yet. Yeah, that's the reason why no one's seen it. No other reasons other than that. Okay, without that sad moment aside, let's jump into Belle and Sebastian. This is Belle and Sebastian's new one right here. It's called Girls in Peacetime Want to Dance. You can see the dancing thing in a second. They're going to take that a little too literally, but that's okay. We'll forgive them for now. Here's some history on Belle and Sebastian. Belle and Sebastian are an indie pop band from Glasgow, formed in 1996, led by Stuart Murdoch. They've made 9 albums. They've been compared a lot to Nick Drake. You know, it makes sense. They're kind of like they get a lot of comparisons to Nick Drake, Neutral Milk Hotel, Jeff Buckley. I don't know why Jeff Buckley, but they do. Yeah, it was actually named after a book called Belle and Sebastian, in 1965 children's book by French author Cecil Audrey, later adapted for television. I don't know. It's wistful pop. Anyway, they formed up actually in Glasgow, Scotland in 96 by Stuart Murdoch and Stuart David, together with Stowe College music professor Alan Rankin. They recorded some demos, and these demos were picked up by the college music business course that produces and releases one single each year on the electronic label Electric Honey. As the band and the number of songs already and the label was extremely impressed with the demos, they actually were allowed to record a full album. Tiger Milk, yay! Awesome album. Murdoch once described the bands as a product of botched capitalism. Truer things could not be spoken. Tiger Milk was recorded in 3 days and originally cost 1,000 copies were made, originally, on vinyl. The originals sell for a lot. After that, they developed a full-time project with Steve Jackson on guitars and vocals, Izo Campbell on cello and vocals, Chris Gades on keys, Richard Colbum on drums to fill out the group. After that, they went on to make on Jepster Records to make If You're Feeling Sinister, their second album. This was named as one of the 100 greatest albums between 1985 and 2005 and is considered a masterpiece. Just before recording Sinister, Sarah Martin, violin and vocalist, joined the band, and then you got the first full lineup. After that, they made Dogs on Wheels, which contained 4 demo tracks previously recorded. They went on to make Lazy Lion Painter Jane, and Monica Queen. After that, it was 3, 6, 9 Seconds to Light, and critical acclaim finally hits around the time of one of my favorite albums ever, The Boy with the Arab Strap in 1998. I love that album so much. It's been loved by everybody. And then they went on to win a lot of awards because they deserved it, and people started to pay attention around that time. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? There's a lot more to it, but this band has been around forever, and if I do history on them for all of it, it's going to take forever. I mean, they went through some lineup changes, they went through some label changes, they went through a lot of things. Dear Catastrophe Waitress in 2003, of course, Stuart Murdoch's Disease, which is a big part of the actual sound of the band, but we'll get into that in a second. So, Belle and Sebastian, let's go through the album. Belle and Sebastian are one of those indie bands that, they've aged out of their usual indie songwriting style. They've predicted years ago they would do this. It's kind of funny that they would, but they know themselves so well. They predicted on Dear Catastrophe Waitress that this would happen, that they were going to age out of their own musical style and would have to discover themselves again. And that's exactly where they are at this point. So wanting to make a different album, they went to Atlanta, Georgia, and teamed up with Animal Collective producer Ben H. Allen. I know, right? Animal Collective and Belle and Sebastian. You never thought I'd hear that in the same sentence. Unless you're reading a festival poster, then it makes perfect sense. Anyway, it's kind of a divided album because the fact is that the usual indie sounding songs are combined with electronic disco infused songs. it's a mixed bag as far as what fits where. And that may become an issue in a sec, you'll see. But they also got very highly involved in politics again on this, jumping into things like the Scottish Yes campaign. They're very political in theory and in context, but the actual characters are just experiencing life through the actual events. They're not really like government, like, say, a punk band or anything. It's just kind of in the context of the song. It doesn't take the forefront on the album, but it stays in the dreamers of the times of war. Just like ordinary people trying to be happy in really bad times. Belle and Sebastian in a nutcase. In a nutshell. I'm the nutcase. Anyway. First one, Nobody's Empire. It opens with the usual sounding Belle and Sebastian flair. But it's, it's what the usual starts with. It's a very more expected sound, but it's one of the most personal songs he's ever written because it's actually about Stuart Murdoch's real-life disease, the chronic fatigue syndrome that he's had for the past 7 years. He was diagnosed, and it's a debilitating illness that has no cure. It's kind of like mono, where you have the lack of energy and lack of doing anything. It's like that part of mono for the rest of your life, forever, with no cure. Yeah, rough, seriously rough, and that's what the first song's about, so it's deep early on. The second one, Alley, opens with a harmony line between catchy lead guitar and vocals. It's very political in theory. Again, this is what I mean by in context. It's about witnessing war around you and having to react to it, like the bombs exploding and she's sitting watching it happen. This is a very catchy song, and I think it's a highlight, personally, on the album. After that, we got the party line, which, I don't know. I hated it at first, and then I hated it at second, and then eventually I finally got used to it. But it's different. It's really weird. It's like if you mixed Belle and Sebastian with Animal Collective, or I like to describe it as if Belle and Sebastian were trying to be cut copy. It's kind of what it sounds like to me, which is better than some things, I guess, but cut copy do a better job of being cut copy, so let's leave it at that. It's out of nowhere, dance, funk, electronic song that, from our normally quiet and sober indie darlings, does not fit very well. It's not my favorite, but it does an okay job of the new style. Later times they lose that a little more so, but this is not a great song from them. After that, we go to The Power of Three. Here they're back to being clever again, citing Sherlock Holmes and using synthesizers lightly. It's like, if you imagine like the indie rock mixed with this, so it's like a scientist dance party. That's kind of what it's like. The dance is there, the party's there, but it's all in very intelligent, level-headed, and complicated. It's, I don't know, very interesting. Dee Dee Penny leads on vocals here for the most part. The Cat and the Cream goes back to that quiet sound wherein Murdoch mostly whispers, reminiscent about the past and his childhood. This is the classic stuff. You gotta love this stuff. It's where they do their best storytelling, the quiet talking about things and whispering while playing guitar. Enter Sylvia Plath. It's like a dance club version of a song from a Final Fantasy soundtrack, which is exactly as cool as it sounds. I love this song, actually. I really do. It uses dance beats, but it's still clever in the lyrics, and it doesn't go full pop stupid in the head. You never go full pop. But on things, it's like what could happen if this album was dealt with better in the dance style. It's a highlight of the album, or maybe just a personal favorite. Tough to say. The Everlasting Muse is probably the most unique song on the album. It's got this jazz walking bass line on it. It's Eastern Europe all over it. It's got a mix of it. Ends up in like, you start off in a jazz club in New York with the beatniks hats on and the snapping, and all of a sudden you're in Eastern Europe and there's a polka line in front of you. It's one song, and that's all happening. You're like, what? Only Belle and Sebastian could have made this, and I love it. I do. I think it's so different. It's such an amazing trade-off. It's insanely well written, and it's my personal favorite. It's so out there, and I love it. Perfect Couples leads with this fun, like, islandy drum beat. It kind of reminds me of where Arcade Fire went to on their latest album, Reflector. It sounds sort of like that with the more Belle and Sebastian flair to it. But, I mean, they do a very good job with it. It's got the worldly sounds of percussion and the strange chorus hooks. Let us throw the rest of that pop disco stuff out the window, guys. Just keep doing this last couple tracks on this. You really got it. Just stick with the fun stuff, and the interesting indie crap goes, back to cut copy. Sad, though, no dice. They're going to go back to the dance stuff right now. Ever Had a Little Faith is actually kind of like the secondary piece to The Cat and the Cream. Again, it's a quietly sung song reminiscing about the past. It's beautifully written. And here, actually, is the disco, the return of the disco. This is Play for Today. It's huge synths. It's actually just the synths, actually, but it's like one of the more African-sounding synth songs. It's, I don't know, it's hard to describe because it's one of those really untamable. It's a song that's never been done in this way before. It's like get eaten by hotcakes in the summer at festivals, I'm sure, because this is such a huge song in a way that people would love to hear them play it, but I don't care for it very much. It's got repetitive and it's really long. It's the longest one on here. It's just the beats are fun, it's interesting, but it's so repetitive. It really gets old. Book of You is a happy romantic indie song? Sort of? Well, yes, I guess it is. It's a change of pace. It's an oddly romantic turn from a very political and emotional album. Their last one, Write About Love, would have fit right in here. It's like, what are you doing? This is weird. But it's okay, I guess. 12, Today, The Arms for Peace, is exactly the kind of closer you'd expect from Belle and Sebastian. It's quiet building acoustic song that all of a sudden fades and builds and fades and builds and then finally fades away. It's a very pretty end to this eclectic set of songs. It's probably the most eclectic set of songs ever by Belle and Sebastian. I don't know. Some people have hated this album for not being just indie all the way, or even called it like just bad songwriting from a talented band. I disagree with that. I just think that there was too much going on here. Overall, there's great ideas on here, and there's some more completed ideas, and then there's less completed ideas. It's kind of like what I picture if you walked into a TV studio in the middle of a brainstorming session, and you just happened to hear the thought at that point, and they went with that as the final product instead of working on it still. It's like, maybe you guys should just hammer this out a little bit more. It's, I don't know, it's songwriting at its weirdest, but the magic here is still there. It's got the charm of their old stuff on certain things like Perfect Couples and The Everlasting Muse. They're just like right on. But then there's so many ideas, they just couldn't do it all. There was no collective feel, sound, or concept to this album. It's not a horrible thing, but with too many good ideas. I think that with more groundwork and more cohesiveness, this could have been a much better album. I don't know. 3.5 out of 5 stars. I recommend Allie and her Sylvia Plath, The Everlasting Muse, and Perfect Couples. If nothing else, The Everlasting Muse and Perfect Couples are great. Check it out. It's worth a listen at least.